Hello, this is Phil Vendetto from Philadelphia Christian Center. Thanks for tuning in again to another show here at the church. This is a special time we have for you today. A very, very special segment, and I have the joy of sitting in the living room of some very close friends that I've known for over 40 years, and we're in Springfield, Missouri, the godly state, and we just. I want to bless you today with some information on Israel, what God is doing in Israel, and how that connects to last day events. And I welcome Tom and Becky Brimmer with us, and they have lived in Israel for 30 years, executive directors of
Bridges for Peace.
Bridges for Peace, thank you, and a great international organization. And they have blessed many people working for God in that kingdom. Tom, I believe you also serve as a tour guide.
I am a certified tour guide.
Tour guide, there you go.
Sometimes they think I should be certified.
Right. And I'm glad that knowing they were home at this time, they just came back from Israel not long ago, so they've been there with everything that's happening. And like I said, I'm in their home in Springfield, Missouri, so this has been an opportunity for us to come out here and have a chance to sit and talk to them. And I first met you many years ago, Becky. Your father, Dr. David Lewis, I'll never forget him, and wrote 40 books on Bible prophecy. My library has all of his books, and they're all signed by him. But I remember when we were Bible college students, he would allow us to come over his home, and he would sit and talk to us, and he just was so kind and so gentle and so open to the students. And some of the questions we threw at him, I'm not sure what he really thought, but he took time and answered them, and he loved us and gave us time. And that's when I became acquainted with you and your sister, Sandy, who was a close friend, of course, who introduced us to your father. And here we sit again, many years later. God has taken you around the world, to Israel, and doing the work of God there, and he's taken us back to Philadelphia. And so I just want to thank you for giving us this time today, and I just want you to share your heart. When I think of Israel today, of course, like yourself, I believe that God's covenant that he made to Israel is still standing. And you know as well as I do that one of the problems we have, even in the evangelical church today, is people are starting to get weak on that stand, and they kind of want to replace Israel in God's plan. And we know that's not biblical. We know that's not what the Bible teaches. And I know that God is standing with Israel. And I was reminded of some words this morning as I was thinking about this. And Jesus was traveling with his disciples, and they asked him, and it's in Matthew chapter 24, a real popular chapter on Bible prophecy. And Jesus was traveling with his disciples. And in verse 3, he says, "And as he sat upon the Mount of Olives, the disciples came unto him privately, saying, Tell us, when shall these things be, and what shall be the sign of thy coming and of the end of the world?" We call this the Olivet Discourse, as you know. But I like Jesus' answer. And Jesus answered and said to them, "Take heed that no man deceive you. For many shall come in my name, saying, I am Christ, shall deceive many." And you should hear wars and rumors of wars and all of that. But I'd love, as I move down to verse 9, this is where I'm going today. In verse 9, he says, "And then they shall deliver you up to be afflicted, and shall kill you. And you shall be hated by all nations for my name's sake." And then he goes on to talk about how watch the leaf tree, watch the leaves, watch the tree, which we know that refers to Israel. And everywhere I go in Bible prophecy in the Bible, it seems like Christ was always directing us back to the nation of Israel. And that's a pivot point in history, and even in last day events it's going to be. So as a Christian, I'm concerned what happens in Israel. I want to always be concerned about what happens in Israel, because I believe that is our greatest sign how close we are to the coming of the Lord.
Well, it's central to God.
Yes.
The whole Bible really happened there. And, in the future, when the new Jerusalem comes down out of heaven, there's going to be the 12 tribes are going to be featured on the
That's right.
walls
Yep.
of the New Jerusalem.
Yep.
So it's still going to be pivotal, And so past, present, future is important to God. Jesus is going to come back not to somewhere in the United States.
Yeah.
He's going to come back there.
I got to tell you, first of all, by the way, welcome to our home.
Oh, thanks, Tom.
But I got to tell you that taking them to the Mount of Olives has a connotation that probably most Christians never noticed. And that is the Mount of Olives is one of the places where there's a call to celebrate. You'll remember in the book of Exodus and in Leviticus, it talks about pilgrimage festivals. And in these pilgrimage festivals, you're supposed to go to the place where God would show, which we now know as the Temple Mount.
Mm-hmm.
But you can't put 2 million people in that little area.
Mm-hmm.
It just doesn't work that way.
Yeah.
And so the understanding then is you should come within view of that. Well, the view from the Mount of Olives is perfect for that.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was where many of these great revelations was taking place. It was a central point of revelation for God. So no wonder he went to this place of revelation to do this teaching.
Mm-hmm.
So that tells us this is a teaching you really need to pay attention to, but you need to do it with your eyes facing toward the temple.
Mm-hmm.
So what are we talking about here? We're talking about things that are going to happen,
Mm-hmm.
but we should, when we look at these things, our eyes shouldn't be necessarily on what's happening, but rather focusing on God's presence.
Mm-hmm.
It's God's presence that's important here, not the things that are happening.
Yeah.
So when it comes to the nation of Israel, yes, we pay close attention to what's going on in Israel, but our focus is on the God of Israel.
Mm-hmm.
It's all about the God of Israel.
Sure.
Yes, Israel is important. Yes, the place is important.
Mm-hmm.
But our view from there is not, we're not looking at that place.
Mm-hmm.
We're looking to the God of Israel.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to shift your aim here just a little
Absolutely. Good point.
bit. It's not about Israel.
Yeah.
Yes, Israel is important. No question in the Bible.
Sure.
It's all the way through the Bible.
Yeah.
Cover to cover is the nation of Israel.
Mhm.
But our focus isn't on the nation of Israel so much as the God of Israel. And
Mhm.
I want to make sure that's the central core of anything we have to say.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Praise the Lord.
One other thing that I'd like to pick up on,
Yeah.
and that is that I sometimes think that Christians today forget that Jesus and the disciples were Jewish.
Mhm.
And when we talk about Jesus Christ, I think a lot of people think that's his first and his last name.
Mhm.
Like you're Phil Menditto and I'm Becky Brimmer, he's Jesus Christ. But Christ is the Greek word for Messiah.
Mhm.
So it's actually Jesus the Messiah, Jesus the Christ. So it's his title.
Yes.
It's who he is. And I think that is an important thing to recognize. It's not just a name.
Mhm.
It tells us who he is.
Sure. Wow.
It means anointed. So in Greek, Christos means anointed. In Hebrew, Messiah, which is the anglicized version of Mashiach, means anointed.
Mm.
So he's Jesus, the anointed one.
Wow. You've been over there 30 years.
33, but
33, okay. Built that great organization there, and God has used you. And October comes along.
Wow, that was hard.
Yeah. How are the people feeling? I mean, are they battle worn? Are they do they still have the momentum to want to finish this job?
It's a hard question, Phil. I got to tell you, it's really a hard question because our impression from the people is multifaceted, of course,
Mm-hmm.
but a lot of anger,
Mm.
wall-to-wall mourning. Everybody's affected mourning.
Mm-hmm.
There's a certain level of fear, and there's an absolute determination to make this thing right somehow, to destroy the work of what their enemies have done,
Mm-hmm.
and to make look, it's my opinion that Israel is God's plan. It's really God's intention.
Sure.
And I'm pretty sure from what I've read in the Bible, Israel's not going to go away ever.
Right.
And so that's not my point. That's not what my point of worry is. My point, and I think it's shared by many, of the people in Israel. My point is that we're trying to make God's name somehow more worthy, more worthwhile, better known. We're concerned about God's reputation here. And so part of it is this enemy. By the way, this is not a political war. This is a religious war.
Sure. Oh,
It's a religious war. So our point then is that our side is the God of Abraham, Isaac, Jacob,
yes.
and Jesus, I might add.
Mhm.
And that's where our focus is. We're going to make the world know that we are righteous.
Mhm.
We're going to make the world know that Israel is doing right. And of course, that's the battle that's going on. We find ferocious enemies who are trying to say Israel is evil, the people of Israel are evil, the government of Israel is evil, and it's in direct contradiction to reality, truth, and by the way, also the Bible. So what are the people thinking? They're thinking, man, we gotta fix this. There's a phrase that's used in Hebrew very often. It's called tikkun olam. Tikkun means to fix. Olam is the world, and it's a life goal for many religious people that we're gonna fix the world. We're gonna make the world a better place, and that's still yet the truth in the midst of this ferocious war that's going on right now. We're gonna try to do our best to make the world a better place.
So let me give my insight. I think that there is a resolve to continue to fight, because I think most people in Israel realize that this is a fight for their existence. That if they give up, they're basically giving up the right of Israel to exist. So I think there's a resolve in the midst of great pain, in the midst of great anguish. And the anger that Tom mentioned is very real, but I think in most cases they're channeling that anger against the enemy. Although there are a lot of questions about how did this happen. We were supposed to have the best security in the world. We were supposed to know these things. Our walls and our electronic surveillance was supposed to be better than anyone else. How did this happen? And so there are heads that are going to roll because of the events that happened. And hopefully they'll learn from the mistakes and there'll be a stronger security in the future. So it's multifaceted. There is a lot of fear as well because the Muslims are not just in Gaza. There's 20% of the citizens of Israel are Muslim, and a lot of them are sympathizers with Hamas. And so some of them have become emboldened, and they have become vocal about their desire to see Israel destroyed, and to enslave women.
Mind you, she's talking about citizens.
We're talking about citizens. So in Israel, you go into any hospital and there's doctors and nurses and anesthesiologists that are Arabs, mostly Muslims. You go into any university and there's Muslim students right alongside Jews and Christians. You taxi drivers, bus drivers, they're just mixed in with the whole population. And
included amongst the hostages that we're worried about.
Yeah, there was Muslim hostages.
One of the guys that was just rescued was
Muslim.
a Bedouin. He was a Arab Muslim.
And everybody in Israel, all the Jewish people in Israel, rejoiced that Israel managed to rescue him. So Israel will fight for all their citizens. But some of the Israeli girls are reporting that bus drivers who are Muslim are giving them the up and down eye and saying, "Wow, you'd make a nice sex slave." And they're using a specific word that was used by ISIS and is being used by Hamas, which is sabiyah. Ugly word. It means a sex slave. It means being taken into slavery and scaring the girls.
Oh yeah.
And so there's fear on many different levels, and I've been really praying about that. And one of the things also that the Lord put on my heart to pray about is the cleansing of the memories of people who saw the horrible atrocities on October 7th. And when we were there in May, we had the opportunity to meet with some of the ambulance drivers and some of the emergency people. And I told one, a man named Yossi, I said, Yossi, since the day it happened, I've been praying for ambulance drivers and first responders that you wouldn't have nightmares because of what you saw.
Wow.
And he looked at me and he said, last night, my nightmare was that I was driving an ambulance and I had to drive like I was a slalom driver. He says, do you know why? And I said, why? He says, I had to avoid all the bodies. He said, keep praying.
Wow.
He says, we're all struggling with terrible nightmares. So this is some of the
Tormented culture.
how it's affecting people. I think it's around 700 soldiers that have been killed so far, but there's about over 4,000 that have been badly injured. There's so many people that have had amputated limbs. So it's a really a wounded society right now, and I really believe that when it says in Psalms that we should pray for the peace of Jerusalem, we really need to do that. Now, I've taught on this, and so I'll let Tom talk again in just a second. But the word peace in Hebrew is shalom. But Hebrew is a language basically without consonants. Without vowels. So in the Bible, they wouldn't have any vowels for that. So it can be different words. So shalom, which is peace, could also be shalem, which is wholeness or completeness. So I think when it says pray for the peace of Jerusalem, it could also mean pray for the wholeness or the completeness. And so when I pray for the peace of Jerusalem, I also pray for the wholeness of body, soul, spirit.
Okay, the thing is, the word shalem, the three letters, Shin, Lamed, Mem, there's more meanings than that. It's even more than that. When you go to the grocery store, you go to the checkout counter, or even if you're going shopping, you might say to the shopkeeper, I found this beautiful brooch and I want to buy it. I might say, Kamazole. And he would say, Tasrik Lishalem, and he'll tell me, how much does it cost? Lishalem means to pay in full.
Okay.
So when I pay the bills, I'm paying with the word shalem, which is the same word. So think about that and the idea of praying for the peace of Jerusalem. The peace here is paid in full. It's not like it's something that Israel owes the world for peace. That would be incorrect. We're praying for the completeness of Jerusalem, but you and I know that God already paid that price. And so we're praying in agreement with the completeness that God already promised us. It's paid in full. And so I love the word shalem and shalom. I like the idea of peace. Our understanding of peace is usually something along the lines of nobody's attacking us. I like that a lot. I really do. I've been through a couple of wars. I got to tell you, I like the idea of nobody's attacking us.
Wow.
But the idea of it's paid in full, I really love that. I don't owe God for the peace of Jerusalem. I'm agreeing with something that He's already paid for.
So being in Israel so long, you're used to the sirens or whatever they do there.
Oh, yeah.
No, one doesn't get used to this.
Get used to it, but
I
you know the routine.
I was riding on a bus. I was had a tour group, which I kind of do that fairly often. And we were driving down the coastal road, and as we're driving, the sirens went off in a village right near where we were. And my whole body went into panic mode. And it took me a few seconds to figure out that they were testing out the sirens.
Oh.
I'll give you another one. We were doing a business meeting in Disney in Florida. And they had put us up at the Olive Green, Shades of Green
which is
resort,
which is a
military resort
Okay.
there. And it was our first night there. We'd just come in from Israel, and when we were there in our room, and it was getting along toward evening.
It was about 10 o'clock.
It was evening, and all of a sudden there were boom, boom,
There was
boom,
lots
boom,
of explosions.
boom. And both of us were like, "Where's the shelter? Where's the shelter?"
Why didn't they tell us where to go?
Why didn't they
when
tell
the
us?
explosion started?
Wow.
And then we realized that
Fireworks.
Disney does fireworks.
The
every night.
fireworks, yeah.
So I guess that we have a little bit of PTSD, I guess. In fact, Israel there's a lot of PTSD in Israel.
Wow.
But we have run for shelters,
Yeah.
grabbed our dog and run when we had 90 seconds, and we had to run down a flight of stairs across a garden, across a parking lot, and get into a shelter.
Wow.
Make it with 2 seconds to spare and close the door, and then hear the boom in the sky. So we've had our share.
We carry our phones with us at all times because the signals, the all clear, comes through on our phone,
Okay.
and so does the alert also comes through on our phone. We
So-
still got that running, and so a couple of nights, 2 nights ago, in the middle of the night, about 3 o'clock in the morning, my alarm started going off. The alarm to tell me there was incoming whatever.
Rockets.
In this case, it was drones,
Wow.
and it kept going off. And it was over and over.
Kind
and
of
over.
disturbs your sleep when it comes to the middle of the night.
It went on until 5:30 in the morning, and I went and checked, and it was 65 different attacks during that one night.
Wow.
And so yeah, we get some of that. The
So
sirens and stuff, they still bother us.
Israel communicates with their citizens heavily via text messaging. And because we have a form of Israeli citizenship or permanent residence,
Mhm.
we get warnings. And Tom just recently got a warning that said if you're outside of Israel, you need to be aware that there are credible warnings of attacks on Jewish people or Israeli people everywhere in the world. Be careful.
Wow.
Okay, so we're sitting in Springfield, Missouri, and we're getting a message saying because you're connected to Israel, you need to be on alert.
Wow.
But Jewish people in America are afraid.
Wow.
There's a lot of fear, not just here, everywhere, because of the increase in anti-Semitism. You know, Phil, I'd like to go back to the idea of Bible prophecy.
Mhm.
I grew up with my dad being a Bible prophecy teacher. And, you know, almost every prophet talked about the reestablishment of the state of Israel.
Yeah.
And for centuries, the church basically thought, well, you know, that's just poetic language. It's never going to happen until it happened.
It happened. That's right.
And God did it, and we see all the miracles, and we could talk for hours about that. But I want to talk to you about how God works with mankind in order to accomplish His prophetic word. And I have a little thing here that I want to show you. This is a bank. And the Jewish National Fund created these, and Jewish people all over the world had one of these sitting on the counter in the kitchen, and they collected coins to build up the state of Israel. This one happens to be from the year I was born.
Wow.
This one is from 1955, so now you know how old I am.
Dude.
I'll make you do the math. So,
I was born the same year. So
I really wanted one of these things, and my staff in Israel gave it to me as a present the
isn't
last
that
year.
nice?
Last year I was there, and I was sitting on my desk, and I said to myself, "Why did I want that so much?" You know, and it's one of the gifts that I really treasure. It's a little tin box. And I was kind of like praying about it and saying, "Lord, what is it that's so significant about that?" And what I felt like He revealed to me is that God proclaims something's going to happen, and then He gives us the opportunity to be a part of it. So He proclaimed that the nation of Israel was going to happen, that the people were going to be gathered from the north, the south, the east, and the west, from the four corners of the world. And then He allowed people in every part of the world to participate,
So these little
to give their money for the building up of Israel.
wow. So these little metal banks went everywhere around the world.
Everywhere. They're still
knew
being
that.
used.
Never
They're
heard
still
of that.
being released, and people are still donating for the building up of Zion. And today, one of the things that I point out to people is our national bird, the building crane. And over every city in Israel, there are building cranes. And sometimes I'll just look at them and I'll start counting them. I'll say, that's a fulfillment of Bible prophecy. That's a fulfillment of Bible prophecy, because the Lord said that the Lord would build up Zion and then He'll return in its glory. That's in Psalm 113.
Imagine the excitement of the people that had those banks.
Yeah.
In 1948
and so
when that happened.
this is a symbol to me of the partnership between God and human beings.
What they would do is they would fill that bank up. Didn't matter what kind of currency, or it could be coins, it could be paper currency, it could be anything. Fill it up till it's chock full,
And then they send it in.
Send it in.
And then get a new
And
one.
get a new one.
Really?
And they did it over and over and over again.
So the funny thing is I took this to a meeting one time where some other people were invited as a panel, and I talked about that. And one of the other panel members walked by and put some coins in it.
Oh.
Put the beer in here.
we can't figure out how to get the coins out.
But we can't figure out because I think that whoever had it kept the key. I don't have it. So there's Israeli coins in
Funny, really. So that money went toward.
So it went toward reforestation, it went toward
Wow.
housing for new immigrants, it went toward building reservoirs, it went toward building the state of Israel.
Here in the United States, the organization is called the Israel
National Fund.
Israel National Fund.
Okay.
It's still an active organization,
Mhm.
but in 1946, 45, before the State of Israel, it was one of the large organizations which was involved in helping people, Jewish people, to settle in Israel during the British Mandate, to be specific.
Yeah.
The British Mandate did not help the Jewish people to live in Israel. Quite the opposite. They tried to force them out. But this organization and a couple others, they were very responsible. They purchased land from absentee landlords,
In Turkey.
not just a little. They purchased a lot of land at huge prices from absentee landlords, mostly from Turkey, and that was where people were living. They purchased this land, and so the people would move there and try to establish a new life. It was really tough going. The Jewish people that were moving were not farmers. They were city people,
Yeah.
and so they didn't know how to live in the land,
Mhm.
and so they had to learn really rapidly. So this organization was one
That's
that helped them, and
Yeah.
it's such a great story
So,
that these little coins make that much difference.
so the question I have for us today
Uh-huh.
is, a lot of people say, well, we're living in Bible prophecy days. We're living in the days that were prophesied.
Yeah.
And that's important to recognize. But what is God asking us to do?
Mm.
It's not enough just to sit in our armchairs in our living rooms and
That's
say, God is doing something and God is moving. But what is He asking of us?
Mhm.
How does He want us to participate? Because He works together with
There it
us.
is.
He works together with us. So you mentioned the Olivet Discourse.
Yeah.
Well, the first chapter talks all about what's going to happen. The second chapter talks about what we should do.
What should we do? That's right.
So keeping our lamps filled with oil, the
Yeah.
virgins, and the talents,
Mm.
which is all about taking care of God's resources.
Wow.
And then there's the taking care of the poor and the needy,
Uh-huh.
and how we will take care of them in the times.
Mm.
So, what is God asking of His people to do
Yeah.
in the midst of these times?
Not sit back and just observe. but
Or
do
be
something.
afraid.
That's right. Yeah.
Because a lot of people
Afraid
are
is
just looking
true.
and say, bad things are coming.
Yeah.
Well, God didn't give us Bible
Wow.
prophecy to make us afraid.
Mm.
In fact, He even told us, it's going to be of limited duration. And Dad used to say, I don't know why people talk more about the Antichrist, because it's more about Jesus Christ than it's about the Antichrist.
Yeah.
He's going to reign for 7 years, and
That's
Jesus is going to reign forever.
Forever is
He told us that so we would know that it's going to have an end point.
Absolutely. Yeah.
You know?
God's plan.
Yeah.
So you spent a large part of your life heading up Bridges for Peace.
Yeah.
Tell me about it. I want to share something. I was in Canada, I guess 15 years ago. I was preaching family camp in Canada. And before they introduced me to preach, there was a guy that got up and he was talking about this Bridges and Peace.
Oh.
He had a table in the back and
Okay.
he was, I guess, I don't know what he was collecting for that. And it reminded me of you because Carol and I knew at that time where you were and what you were doing.
Right.
And I think we got so excited over that. I think I told Carol, text you and let you know what just happened.
Okay.
And I'm not sure whether we ever
Yeah.
did. But tell me about the organization.
Yeah. Bridges for Peace is it's a reconciliation organization.
Okay.
Most Christians have no idea that why Jewish people are so resistant to Jesus and Christianity.
Mm-hmm.
They have no idea that they believe that most of their persecution came about because of Christians.
Mm-hmm.
Most Jewish people believe that Hitler and the Nazis were Christians.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And that 6 million of their family members were killed because of Christians. And so there's a lot of suspicion against Christians.
Mm-hmm.
And so the Lord raised up Bridges for Peace to be purveyors of love, of blessing. And the Lord even told our founder, Dr. G. Douglas Young, he said, I want you to love them. I want you to bless them. Your job is to love them. My job is to save them. That's what he said. And so in Israel, we're giving food to 24,000 people every month.
Wow.
We're making sure that they know it's coming from Christians. In fact, I've stood in front of many a Jewish mayor and Jewish leader and said, look, what you see in front of you is one Christian woman from the United States. But when you see all the food that's being distributed in this country, it's a symbol of Christians all over the world who care enough about your blessing and your success that they reach into their pockets and they send money so that we can buy food and that we can help the people in your community that need it most. And that's just one project. We've helped over 110,000 people come back to Israel from the former Soviet Union.
Wow.
We help kids in school pay for all the cost of school for parents that can't afford to pay for it. Many projects like that to bless the Jewish people. And on the other side of our bridge, on the side that reaches out toward Christians, we help them to understand their Bible from the culture of the Bible. You know, you've talked about that you've got an Italian culture, and I have a melting pot American culture, but most of us don't stop to think that the Bible has a Jewish culture.
That's right.
And
Absolutely.
we need to understand the culture of Jesus and the disciples to really understand the depth of our own faith. And so we help Christians understand that. We help them understand the connections between Judaism and Christianity, what we agree on, what we don't agree on. We help to break down those walls of division that exist between Christians and Jews so that we can communicate more effectively with appreciation and love and allow God to work between our two groups of people. So much more I could say, but just to put it in a nutshell, that's what we do.
Boy, that sounds...
And we're a pretty big organization. We have offices in 8 different countries.
Okay.
And
Plus Israel.
And we've been active for more than 50 years. We call it 50 Years of Blessing.
Wow.
And I'm now semi-retired, but we've installed the next generation. And I can tell you they're doing a great job, and I'm so proud of the team in Israel. Even after this whole thing in the war, they're there. They've got kids and family. We've got about 50 people on the ground. Nobody said, I got to leave. I got to take my kids somewhere safe. No, they know they're called of the Lord to be there and be a loving, blessing group of people. And I'm proud to be a part of something like that.
That is tremendous.
Yeah.
And, you know, we've learned, coming from our area, we have a lot of Jewish people. It takes them a lot of years to trust you.
That's right.
They won't trust you overnight. And, you know, you got to be really careful and love them. And I find they do respond when in time, when you show them that love and appreciation. And
respect.
Tom, Becky, thank you for being with us.
Yeah, you're welcome.
And I know you're busy people, but I'm so glad that you took time to sit down with me.
Yeah, and if you want to check out our website at Bridges for Peace, it's
yes.
www.bridgesforpeace.com.